I'm sure that by now, we can all tell that Kafka is pretty strong as a damage dealer in Honkai Star Rail. So today I wanted to do something a little bit different, because, usually for characters, I would talk about how good they are, after a week of them being out. But instead, because I have Kafka, because I've been able to use her a bunch, I wanted to test Kafka in every single stage of Simulated Universe. Now, I know what some people might be saying. You might be going right down to the comments being like, but wait, Simulated Universe is so easy. Anyone can get through Simulated Universe. You should test Kafka in Memory of Chaos. But here's the thing, right? Every player, is probably doing Simulated Universe for the rewards. And because of that, I think it's good to show it. And not every player is, at, stage 10 of Memory of Chaos. Like, I can't even get past stage 6 right now. I'm trying to tighten up some loose ends on my account so I can progress further. So I think, showing Simulated Universe, sure, it's, not the most accurate representation of the character in terms of what they can do, because there's a lot of buffs and there's extra stuff that's put on top of the character. But I do think it's good to see, because especially for players who want to get the most out of Simulated Universe by doing it, a bunch of times every week, I feel like they're going to want to value going fast, and I think that's going to be, very helpful to see. And I think Kafka definitely does make a lot of these stages very fast for players. So, in the video, I'm going to go through each of the bosses for each world, and I'm going to just talk about my experience for those. But for this video, I made sure to use the same team for every boss, so we can have the same kind of setup, so we can see the differences between the worlds for Kafka. So for these runs, I ran the team of Kafka, Sampo, Silverwolf, and Bailu. And for all of them, I also ran the Nihility path for Simulated Universe. So with that now, let's get on into the worlds. Alright, so starting with World 3 with the Gepard boss. So because of the DOT from Kafka, Sampo, and then the Nihility Resonance, it was pretty easy to defeat Gepard's reinforcements. And through this, if he does get up his giant shield, the DOT damage will just kind of shred through that. It won't really be too big of an issue if you have your Kafka and your Sampo pretty well built. But in my case, I actually didn't even give the shield an opportunity to go up. And part of that is because of some of the blessings I had, because I had some of the Remembrance blessings that have a freeze chance. But other than that, I was just doing enough damage to Gepard and keeping him weakness broken, with him being weak to lightning for Kafka, and then also using Silverwolf as well to add some extra weaknesses to him. That basically let me not have the shield go up at all, which was really nice. And for Gepard in particular, Silverwolf's weakness application, it was pretty helpful, adding those extra weaknesses, because for this fight, it would add either the Quantum weakness for Silverwolf or the Wind weakness for Sampo. But I don't think that for this fight in particular, those are really that necessary, because he's already weak to Kafka's lightning, so you'll be able to get some good weakness break on him there. Next up, we have World 4. And World 4, I would probably say, is the easiest of the 5 main worlds for Simulated Universe, and that's because Svarog, he already has weaknesses to Kafka and Sampo. So you really don't need Silverwolf here to, add those weaknesses. Like, if you use her, then you'll add the Quantum weakness so that your entire team can weakness break Svarog, which would be really nice. But because of Kafka and Sampo already having those weaknesses on him, he's already going to be pretty easy to get his weakness break on and getting that break effect damage. Plus, the DOT from Kafka, Sampo, and the Resonance basically just make his robot reinforcements non-threats pretty much, and gets through his HP pretty easily. The one thing I do want to point out, though, and caution for this fight, is the robot hand that he spawns in Phase 3. If you're able to have the right setup where you can get rid of the robot hand with all the DOT before it even does its first attack to capture someone, then you're fully in the clear. But if it does capture someone, then it becomes an RNG kind of game where it depends on who they captured. So on this team in particular, if they captured Silverwolf or Bailu, I would have been fine, because I could have just applied more DOT and would have been all good from that. But if Kafka or Sampo was taken, then it would have been a lot harder for me, because I wouldn't have my main DOT appliers, or I'd have one of them be unusable. So yeah, it really just depends on the RNG for that fight, but other than that, I do think Svarog is by far the easiest fight for the Kafka team. So then we get to World 5 against Kafka herself, and, you know, not gonna lie, with her, you know, domination abilities, the psychological suggestion, I was like, this might be a little challenging, because this team does not have a cleanser at all. Because normally when I'd run this before, I'd run a team with Natasha or, you know, Bronya to have that cleanse so I can deal with that debuff. But, you know, not running it on this team was a little scary at first, but as I was playing through it, I realized that if I can end every phase before the domination effect starts, since especially in phases 2 and 3, you have the psychological suggestion phase and then the domination phase. So if I can end each phase before the characters are dominated, then it really isn't that hard. Outside of that, it's pretty much just like Kafka doing damage. So just making sure that, you know, my characters were healed and I was applying the proper DOT from the resonance, from Sampo, and from Kafka. And then, you know, reapplying that damage and, you know, increasing enemy vulnerability to it with Sampo's ult. It was, you know, pretty straightforward. And similarly to the, you know, Gepard fight, Silverwolf's weakness application, it was, you know, very helpful being able to add the lightning weakness or the quantum weakness to Kafka, since she's already weak to wind for Sampo. But just based on, you know, how the DOT was working for that fight, it wasn't as necessary to get it. It's just, you know, a quality of life thing, makes the fight a little easier to have that extra weakness so you can get some faster weakness breaks as well. Alright, next we have World 6, and once again, you know, I had a little bit of concerns here, because Cocolia does have some strong AoE attacks, especially her kind of like ultimate that she has in phases 2 and 3, as well as, you know, Bronya is a pretty challenging part of this fight, giving Cocolia extra actions. But with this team, the ice swords that Cocolia spawned, as well as Bronya, aren't really that big of a deal, because the DOT just kind of rips them apart. And yeah, Bronya didn't even really last for that long, which is super nice. I think she cleansed Cocolia like once in the run I had, which was really cool. Because the cleanse is going to get rid of all the DOT, which is an issue. But yeah, since she only was able to do it once, it wasn't really that big of a deal. I just had to kind of wait for a little bit to get my resonance back so I could apply all the DOTs all over again. And since she's already weak to Kafka and Silverwolf, for Cocolia specifically, I was already able to get some good weakness breaks on her as well. But, you know, with Silverwolf, I'd be able to add the wind weakness for Sampo, which would make it even better. And really in this fight, you know, I was able to do this one first try, like all the worlds previous. But the one big issue I had was I did almost, you know, have a tough spot at the end of phase 3. But I was able to beat the fight first try. So yeah, World 6, you know, as long as you're able to get rid of Bronya and, you know, make sure you healed properly with Cocolia, you should be all good. And then finally, we have World 7 against the Abundant Ebon Deer. And this was by far the hardest fight of the simulated universe for this team, because the Deer is the only boss that doesn't have many of the weaknesses on the team. The only weakness he has at the start is Silverwolf, and this is the only fight where I'm going to say Silverwolf's weakness application with this build in particular felt necessary to be able to actually try to get some weakness breaks on him. And also in my run, I did actually have the Punk Lord Mentality Curia, which also adds an extra weakness for the first 3 turns of battle. So there was a point where I did have 5 weaknesses on the Ebon Deer, which was, you know, pretty cool, honestly. So I was able to get some good weakness breaks there. But overall with this team, you know, once again, the DOT kind of just shreds through any kind of like reinforcements or like side enemies. So most of the branches weren't, you know, a big deal at all. I think they maybe got like a couple attacks here and there during the fight. But similarly to really any run you're doing against the Ebon Deer, the biggest thing you want to be worried about are those branches in phase 3, which allow the Ebon Deer to use its like ultimate, the Flamboyant Gore. And as long as you're able to, you know, use DOT to destroy those branches before they're able to activate the Flamboyant Gore, you should be pretty smooth sailing here, because you're going to do some good damage with the DOTs to the Ebon Deer, and the other branches, won't really stand too much of a chance to the DOT that you're applying there. But yeah, that is my experience with Kafka in Simulated Universe. It was definitely fun going through all the worlds and seeing how she performs, because, previously, I did this with Sela, because she was my main DPS for basically from 1.0 till Kafka's release. So I did a lot of Simulated Universe with her to clear all the stages at first, and now doing it with a different team was definitely cool. But yeah, I want to hear what you all think in the comments down below. Have you tried Kafka in Simulated Universe? Let me know how it went for you. But with that, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, definitely be sure to hit the like button, comment, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell. But with that, I will see you all next time.
Wow.